Tim, can you hear us?
I can, yes.
You moving over to the. There we go. Oh. Get the flag. I can look at you. There you go. There. Wrong way. All right. All right, it's 3:04. We will call the Yamhill Water Advisory Committee meeting to order. Get a roll call.
Family here, five, whatever.
Ulrich present.
Thank you.
Ulrich here. Jensen here.
Adams here, Walker here.
No, Dean is on another assignment, not available today.
Marcy today?
No, she's on got another project she's working on. She's in Sherwood at the moment.
Oh.
Try to zoom in. Move into public comment. Public comment.
I didn't know that was on there. Yay. Well, Sherry Wilson, 7 Pennies Made. I listened to the recording from your guys' last meeting, and I thought there was a lot of good information. Kathy's idea of having more information for the public to kind of understand, I think it's a great idea. I know that, I don't know how you're gonna get out Facebook or whatever, I know you talked about that, but I think the numbers, giving us all in the city, I'd like to know the numbers that, how much money does the city make on each hookup? Is it, I mean, on the basic run and then beyond as far as the minimum? Same for the water districts, how much do they pay? Is it by 1,000 every 1,000 gallons or, that's just information that I haven't heard. My biggest concern is this, obviously you guys know with them wanting to develop by the park. I think we all as a whole group should be concerned because they're all referencing the city water, and it's not just the city water, it's the city water and the water district's water. And it's fine if you look at it on the sense of, oh, it's the city's water and we are only using 25%, but that's not that's not the reality of it. And my concern is I don't want any of us to have to go without water. And if it's 5% more, that 5% we could have used this last summer for all of us. So, I feel like it's been a lot of this going on. And I think more information will help everybody to understand how they feel that they're going to justify that 5% is what they're talking about. But we don't even have 5% extra when you look at the history of last year. So those are my concerns. And I want to be positive and just ask the questions. I think that's, when more information is better for everybody to be able to understand.
Thanks, Sherry. That's what we're hoping to get to. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in play here and we're working on it.
Well, just, and thanks to you two for actually doing something. I feel like there was a whole lot of years when you're referencing the 2018, master plan. And it's been 5 years now. We're breathing on 5 years and it just seems like all of a sudden people are going, oh yeah, we need to start working towards this. And it seemed, for the last 20, 30 years, it doesn't, maybe 40, I've been here, it hasn't been a whole lot of growth in that area, so I'm glad for that.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Yeah, we got Petra, I think the new
Yeah.
city administrator. Are you there, Petra or Petra?
You got her muted.
I think I got her unmuted.
Asked,
Hear me?
yeah,
Well, I listened to you guys.
Are you able to hear me?
yeah, you are.
Okay, hi.
Oh,
Well,
Petra, if you could, this is our new interim city manager. And maybe if you could, just give us an introduction.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Petra Sheets. I've been hired for the next 4 to 6 months to help coordinate your all needs and while you guys consider hiring a permanent position. So I'm really honored to be a part of the Yamhill community for a while. I do have a background in public works and planning and city administration. So I understand the topic at hand this afternoon. I apologize, I couldn't make it. I'm about an hour away in inclement weather today, but I should be in tomorrow. Be happy to answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, I'll just be an active listener.
Right, thank you. We look forward to working with you and moving forward.
Thank you, likewise.
We have any other public comment before we move on? Robert?
Yeah, my name is Robert Davis. I represent Yamhill Neighborhood Association and all its members. I would like to make 2 comments and then ask 3 questions. So I'll try and be brief. The first comment is in the last city council meeting where a council member asked Jason to explain whether or not the infrastructure of the sewer system was capable of handling the 57 additional homes. Jason's comment was no. Am I correct, sir? Okay. With that said, AKS Engineering was also asked by a council member, excuse me, but he said, if those 57 homes were in this previous year, before the drought or during the drought and the water crisis that the city has experienced, would there be enough water to support those 57 additional homes, even though both the city attorney, the lawyer, and the builder says, oh, it's only 5% additional. The answer from AKS Engineering was no, there would not be enough water to support the additional 57 homes based on the water crisis we ran into. So those are my comments. Now I have 3 questions. With regard to the Yamhill City water system, what is the total amount of gallons of water leaving the water plant compared to the total amount of water that was billed for in the 552 city water meters and the 167 10 outside water district meters? And obviously, you probably don't know, but if you do, that'd be great.
Trying to figure that out.
Good. Because that's another key factor, we believe, to this puzzle that we're all working on, trying to achieve where we're going to come up with this water. My second question is, during the Planning Commission meeting, December 15th, 2021, AKS Engineering stated there was a new 16-inch pipe installed from the water system to the north end of the city of Yamhill, and that a 12-inch pipe was placed from this point down Olive Street, across Azalea to the school, down Juniper Street, ending at Highway 240. Is this information correct?
That's correct, that right there. It's an 18-inch pipe from the reservoir to Olive Street.
Yes.
From Olive Street down to Camellia and up Camellia through the school district, and it comes out at 240 right at Juniper, is a 12-inch line.
I see. So not all the information AKS said was correct.
It's an 18-inch from the reservoirs, it's 12-inch from Pike up through Camellia,
But it never went up Azalea.
never went up at Azalea.
Okay,
There is a 12-inch pipe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but it runs through the school district property, which is now the fire lane.
yes,
Behind the old cafeteria is a 12-inch pipe over to Azalea
I see.
that ties into that line that came up.
And both of these lines terminated Highway 240 at the edge of the property of the school.
They are tied into the 8-inch line in Highway 240.
Oh, okay,
So they are tied in. That
all right.
has helped improve the water
I'll bet,
to the east side of town.
I'll bet. Yes, sir. My third question with regard to the 1.6 million gallon water storage tanks that you folks are considering. December 15th, 2021, AKS Engineering stated, no amount of mass storage or the 11 million gallon impound yard dredged out is going to carry us through another 3-month lack of water crisis. That was his statement. So we can only go by what the experts are supposed to say. So I wanted to make those 3 points for the record so we can get some clarification on that. You've already clarified one. I appreciate that. And the other two, I'll just wait until you guys get an answer.
If you could send that to me via email or something so I can get
Sure.
that into the
Be
minutes.
glad to. And thank you for hearing me.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Jay,
Yeah, good evening, Jay Disbro, 515 East Main Street. I've got 5 points I'd like to bring up, but then maybe after I get through, if there's any discussion on that. The first one is SDC project funding sharing. It's a planning commission meeting. I think they were very weak about the SDCs that the developer up here might provide up front. There are restrictions on how that money can be spent, and I think the public needs to understand that because there's a significant amount of cost sharing required by the city. If the developer provides $400,000 and the percentage of SDCs available is 40%, that means the city has to come up with $600,000 in order to use that SDC money. And I think that's a significant hurdle that the city is going to have to overcome through grant funding, local resources, and everything else. Secondly, I think the city needs to, because it was also missing at the planning commission meeting, listening to is that the city needs to come up with a plan, a solid plan going forward with good timelines and funding profiles so that the public has an understanding of where we're going, particularly to get people in line to support the development project. The other is more of kind of a question, a recommendation, I guess, for a water management and conservation plan. Given the problem that we had this summer, you know, the city, I think, needs to come up with a good, solid plan in writing on how to manage water. Part of that plan is leaks, leak detection, and documentation. The city council meeting, they had an individual wanting to hook up the water system that apparently had been tapping the system for quite a few years, and the city was not aware of that. So there are other leaks. I mean, leaks in a water system are just natural. There's never going to be 100% leak-free system. So leak detection and documentation, I think, is an important part of that. The other thing think that needs to be made aware of and the public needs to understand, and that's unmetered water and unbilled water. Because the public is paying for that water. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Jay, what you touched on there on that last part of it, that's why Tim Tice was here at our last meeting.
I'm having a little trouble.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So to touch on the last part of what you had to say there, that's why Tim Tice was invited to our meeting, our last meeting. And I mean, that's what he recommended also. So I think, we're all in line with, actually having a plan of attack and water conservation. So
I think we'll get into that portion here just in a little bit.
So there is a state guideline, water managed conservation plans that the state has, a guidebook. And that's a pretty high hurdle because that's 300 pages long.
And that's what Tim talked about at our last meeting
Yeah.
Go ahead and
Gave
split
a
it up
and
between.
presentation, so.
Yeah, 100, 100. Oh, yeah, you guys got plenty.
And the definitions in there are pretty vague because there is a threshold where small communities don't have to have a plan.
Yeah.
But the criteria as to where that threshold is kind of confusing and vague. The city of Yamhill may come under that, not required to have a plan, but if it's over, then it is supposed to have a plan.
Yep, and that's what we talked with Tim about. He gave a presentation at our last meeting, and there'll be more to follow up with that here shortly.
Thank you.
Can I bring up one more fact?
Sure.
According to my research, there are 3 or 4 registered water rights that the city of Yamhill is using to draw water from Turner Creek. Is it 3 or 4? Okay, 3. Within those water rights, it stipulates the maximum gallons per minute or in the case of the bulk, what's the other reference besides gallons per minute? It's
Feet per acre.
yes, feet per acre. Are you folks familiar with that terminology and the amount of water that the city has been drawing against the maximum amount allowed by the state of Oregon on their water rights?
we are aware of that.
We actually met with the State Water Resources during the drought period and talked with them. We are actually under our permits. So we are not maxing out those permits at this
Okay.
time. The problem just being is there's not the water in the creek to pull.
To draw from, yes, yeah,
I mean, we can draw dust out of there, but
yeah.
we did meet with the State Water Resource people and they were out and actually did some in-stream flow tests for us during the drought period.
So
So
when, and this is kind of directed at Jason, when we were using 525,000 gallons a day through the system, that was not maxing out Turner Creek's capability of providing us water and how it goes against our water rights.
It was not, just due to the fact our operational usage of the plant was it was going up. We were just using the plant longer, basically, in a sense. So we would operate the plant, 18 to 22 hours a day instead of,
Right, I remember you saying it's normally 10 to 13 hours a day, and you said it was running 23.
yeah, I mean, it was significant.
Yeah, okay, understood, thank you.
Yes.
I just want to clarify this committee's responsibility. So are you guys you're coming together to come up with ideas? And are these ideas then going to be recommendations to
that
the city council?
is our purpose is the committee was formed to look at the water and to develop a plan and recommend to the city. At the last city council, this committee did recommend to the council to move forward with the log jam at the intake.
And I commented on that. I was just amazed that you could even do that environmentally this day and age.
That you can, and that's why you have to call it a log jam. You can't put in a dam,
Okay,
but you can do a log jam. And so that was our recommendation. And the council approved that. We're just moving forward and working on the funding portion of that.
But how is the log jam going to help us when we have no water to draw from?
It will allow us to capture that impound water at the intake instead of just letting it free flow by. Right now, we're only gaining what we figure about 20% of that capture rate coming down from the impound when we open that.
But now truly, the impound only holds 11 million gallons.
It holds that, but you got to also consider that it refills gradually throughout the day.
Yeah.
So the deal is we would not open the impound. It would not be left open. It would be open when the plant's running and they need water. When the plant's not running, that would be shut down. So that way, when it's open with the log jam, it keeps the water level up where it needs to be at the intake so that they can draw that 440 gallons a minute and they don't have to go down to the 300 or less.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just covering the intake, so.
I see. So can you advise me as to what happened to the previous log jam that was there?
There wasn't a log jam before. There used to be a little dam about 800 feet up from the intake. And I believe in '08 or so, when we had the big floods, the big heavy rain, that got washed out.
Oh,
And so that was permitted under old permitting. And I don't know what happened at that point, why nothing was done. I know FEMA was out, but I don't know where it went. So since '08, we have not had the dam.
I see. And not allowed to put one back either.
Not allowed to put one back under new guidelines, so.
Yeah,
So
understood.
that's why we're kind of, that's why we haven't had a real problem, because in the dry years, they've been able to capture that water from the impound and use that.
Yeah, right.
Without that dam there, it's kind of free flows.
like a reservoir, it makes like another reservoir.
So with one more question then, the impound yard, which normally when it's dredged out properly, it holds 11 million gallons. What is it actually holding now based on all the sediment?
Well, we're still waiting to get information back from AKS to see how much sediment is built up in those pocket beds at the impound. So then we can actually get a crude number that's an actual fictional
I see.
foundational numbers.
Right, right. Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's a work in progress. So-
Yes, yes. Well, that's still something, you know.
So
Good deal. Thank you.
anybody up there with public comment, Kyle?
Russ Petra has another one, but I think her hand's just still up.
Yeah.
No, we're good.
She'll yell at us if she has something. All right. We will move on. I think we talked about the log jam. I think we covered that. In old business, we're still looking at funding. I don't know where John's at, moving forward, working on that. So
John's not here today.
John's not here today. I don't know if he's back.
Looks like we got another hand up. Come on. Carol.
I did not have my hand up, I don't believe.
Okay.
There, Carol.
Carol. Hello?
Shows them both his hands up.
Carol, you got any public comment? Keeps muting. We'll move on. Update from staff on the operational cost to produce water. Where are we at on that?
We're moving along pretty good and with engineering's help. Just getting some more collective data from Kim that I need to get. And I think probably by next meeting, we'll have it, I believe.
And with Petra's background, she should be able to help provide
Yeah.
some clarity on how to calculate it effectively as well.
What about there was a meter, and you're gonna replace a meter, put in.
Yeah, we got down to the meter and we're looking to get a cost on that. Tim still hasn't gotten back to me, but we did get our eyes on the meter and got a real physical look at what it is, so. It's waiting on cost now.
We just left the tie line with the city of Hillsborough. We're still looking at here maybe in January, meeting with Hillsborough and start working on a,
I think we need to get to our ordinance thing.
yeah, we'll work on that. Sharon provided an update of the grants, is what appears to be the same as last meeting, so. I know John was working on the AKS water master plan kind of update. Brings it just down to the leak detection and stuff.
Yeah, so I got a cost today from an individual who does leak detection. For an 8-hour session with him, that individual is $1,248.
What are you gonna do in 8 hours?
Hopefully locate as many leaks as we can on that old line leaving the water plant. That would be my plan of attack with that 8 hours.
That's something you think we can accomplish in 8 or?
It would give us a foundation to know how many, I mean, he works in 8-hour blocks. He doesn't schedule for weeks or days. So I just wanted to give you guys a cost. I believe, this was brought to my attention by Kyle, I believe OAW was cheaper.
What's that, Tim? How much was it with you guys, Tim?
I don't know. I kind of know. I'm going to say about $1,000 a day, $1,200 a day, something like that. But- But can I ask?
That's what you told us last meeting was about 1,000.
Yeah. But that would have to be confirmed with Scott Berry. He's our operations manager. But I got a quick question.
Sure.
Hey, Jason, do you happen to have any repair orders on the system as a whole that you could reflect back to determine multiple repairs on a particular segment of lines? Because that will help you certainly focus and obtain a goal within an 8-hour as opposed to by golly work.
Tim, I don't have any information on that line, on that section of line. So we were just looking for, control points, if you want to call that, to just.
Okay. Yeah.
Could we get a cost from OWA, from Tim and them folks?
Sure can.
Don't we have, isn't there money in contractual services that could possibly cover that? Because I think we need that to get started.
So do we have 2 different people on the leak detection? Is that what we have going on?
I just looked at other contractors to see what the comparable was.
Probably need three quotes.
How old is this line and what is the line made out of? I mean, I'm just trying to get some background to understand. Is there gonna be a leak here and a leak here in one section, and then we might not have a leak for, a mile, and then we need to replace this whole one section at a time?
And
or-
that's what we're trying to find out,
Okay.
because that line, going back to our last meeting and that conversation, it's never really been scoped out to know what's going on with it. It's hidden in the weeds, so to speak. So we want to find out if there is any major leaks on that line.
That's a lot of
It's
fun.
lived its life.
It's definitely listed.
It's lived its life.
It's back in the 70s.
Back in the 70s when Logan's and them worked here
Yeah.
at the city. I mean, yeah, they all, if Wayne Stoneberg was in better health, he could probably give you a lot of information on that line.
But the water rights go back to 1919.
Yeah, there's a lot of history.
So-
Back in the history.
So Yam Hill's been using water for a long time.
Too, that.
Yeah, there's old, with the main line. So yeah, if we can get some quotes and get going on that, I think. I don't, do we have another meeting before the council meeting?
No. No, well, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
There's a-
Do we want to make a recommendation, council move forward with authorizing this leak detection and
We can have to, ask the council to move forward on.
Second.
Contractor to be determined, or
yeah, per city bidding guidelines or whatever.
Sounds like OAW and Dan are
Have a meeting.
pretty close on the price.
so who is the other person?
Dan's leak detection, we've used them before.
I'm asking for every 2 weeks.
Water district purposes, because
I think I gave you his card.
you might have.
We have a motion with a second, any discussion? Get a vote, please.
All right, guys.
Just tonight.
Evans, aye.
All right.
So you do have a meeting on the 11th, the next city council meeting is the 12th. I mean, if your
Oh,
meetings are every,
we have one before you.
Well, maybe we'll have some more information by then. Maybe we'll have some pricing.
That gives us less than the 48 hours to put it on the agenda.
Yeah, that's, we have a standing place on the agenda for a water advisory report, so that's a standing. But we'll recommend to council to move forward with the leak detection using, and I think in the contract services,
Yeah,
there's money, we put extra money in there. That's a big thing.
$6 grand.
And then the meter you're working on.
yeah, we'll have a price on that.
Okay. What about the conservation plan?
That's, that's why I was hoping John was here, because discussing that at our last meeting, he said that was SDC fundable,
100%.
100% SDC. So that's one thing, if it is, I'd like to move forward with that, to start at least working with OAW to start building that.
If we find out, maybe we can send John an email and ask him. The committee think that conservation plan, Tim talked about it at our last meeting.
Getting what that was about.
That was, it involved the leak detection, and then it's also, when you determine where your leaks are at, how to reduce those and your plan to move forward. And I think, correct me, Tim, if I'm wrong, that's kind of the goal of that conservation plan is, once we get that leak detection information, developing a plan to move forward to do that.
Yeah, for the most part, that's correct. The management conservation plan is going to look at a good number of different angles in which water's being produced, water's being consumed, the differences thereof, and then determining what those differences are based on a percentage. The city's going to be required in 1, 2, 3, 5-year increments to provide progress reports on how you're going to basically reduce and try to determine what percentage of unaccounted for water there is. It becomes a little bit more strategically feasible when people begin to understand, for every gallon of water that's coming out of the river, do we get a gallon of water going past a meter to a consumer? And that will never, ever be a perfect 0%. But the state has have references for the goal of 15% unaccounted for water. And then once you obtain that goal, they're going to want you to get to 10% and less. So there's different strategies. Some of it's very costly. Other things can be done where an educational process. So we'll kind of walk you through everything that way, with the understanding that We're not going to be able to finish this the first 2 or 3 years. I mean, the plan can get finished, but your guidance to Jason and the rest of the staff to start implementing some of these, it's just not a straightforward approach. Some of the steps that you may choose to do will be pretty costly. Some of the steps that you choose to do can be very inexpensive. But just moving that unaccounted for water percentage down towards a goal of 10% is the ultimate goal.
All right. Jason, Kyle, is that something that in the committee that we need to move forward with?
I think it's a good idea.
So we discussed it last time, that if we don't do that, we aren't showing good stewardship, and any support or any grants or any activity we go for financially will not be supportable if we are not doing our due diligence.
Do we want to send a recommendation to council to move forward with the conservation program?
I think we can hold back on that until we actually get the leak detection.
Get the
going.
leak and
Taking steps. You think we should go faster?
I think we should move faster. Just think we got an opportunity here, a window that we should use.
Okay, make a motion.
Make a motion that we move forward with all water loss conservation plan.
Second.
We kind of said-
Okay.
You can have.
any discussion?
Can I make a comment?
Sure, Tim.
Your management conservation plan, once we start diving into the weeds, it's gonna show some pretty clear direction that the council and Jason will move forward towards. Part of that is leak detection, but I'm not gonna say putting the cart in front of the horse is leak detection now. Your management conservation plan is actually going to require the city to do leak detection as an initial approach, but then a continual approach. So some of these things that I was kind of mentioned as an outline as steps towards conservation and management of that water will be requiring Jason and his staff to either have additional man hours or additional equipment or contractual agreements, which has a tendency to kind of drive the budget a little bit higher. But once you get a pretty good understanding of where you think the weak links of the system are, financially, structurally, with water rates stuff, you should be able to cover some of these additional expenses. They're not going to be 25, 30% of an entire budget, but they are additional labor hours and additional costs associated, which drives your budget up a little bit higher for the water department.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
Mhm.
Jason, would it be something that we could get maybe a outline draft of what would be entailed in this, maybe working with
Yeah,
Tim or somebody that we could present to council? So they kind of had an outline of what we're talking about. Makes sense.
Yep.
definitely. Yeah,
Any further discussion?
Sidestep. Carol's still trying to talk, if we can let her.
Let's finish this motion and we'll move on. Seeing no other further discussion, yeah, call for a vote.
Well,
All right, guy.
Mullen, aye.
Kids and I,
Adam's eye.
Jason, I.
thank you.
Thanks again, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Hopefully we can get something done.
No problem. If you guys have any questions, please just reference it to Jason. He's got my email. I'd be happy to answer them until we get a formal agreement together, and then we'll start working on it. The entire management conservation plan is probably going to take us a good 8, 9, 10, maybe a full year to get completed. And that's just based on not only what we have control over, but we do have to turn it into the state, and they have multiple steps they have to go through. So just wanted to kind of as an FYI, but enjoy the rest of the holidays.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye. We'll jump back real quick to Carol. Carol, you had a public comment?
And you are unmuted.
Carol?
Now she muted herself. All right, you should be live, Carol.
Her mic's not working. Maybe if Carol, if you may call into City Hall and let them know what your question is, they can bring it to us.
Or you can call me and I'll put you on speaker.
Or you can call Sherry. We're not hearing you. With that, we will, while we're waiting for that, let's move on. Main thing we wanted to try and get through this afternoon was review of the current water restriction levels and propose some updates to those. Rick and Paul have been working on these and probably has more insight than I do.
No, Paul was working on it.
Paul was working on
And
them.
we were gonna look at it and decide what we want to do. So I thought that's where we were.
That's where we're at. Let me get to that.
Jason, you guys come up with anything, ideas?
You know, Kathy, it's just really tricky to try to work in that language.
I know.
I mean, I know Kyle and I had a heck of a time just trying to, what do we input, you know, and what are we trying to accomplish here? And it kind of, for me, it always goes back to what we were stating in the beginning is how to get that information relayed out there quicker, sooner. You know, and there again, you know, I put a lot of that on my shoulders, not knowing the ins and outs of it as far as knowing I could have went to a level 1, level 2, or came backwards a lot quicker, you know, so.
Well, I don't think anybody knows it, so I wouldn't like beat myself up.
Yeah, you know, it's just, this is our kind of our first rodeo and hopefully we don't have to go through it again, but you know, really,
Well, hopefully it's like a 20-year thing, you know, last time it was 20 years ago.
yeah.
I kind of went through, I started this and then I got diverted, but I kind of going through and just inputting stuff into the current ordinance and revising that. Trying not to change that a whole lot, but just changing it to what we need. Taking what Paul had done. When they declare it, I think we need to educate the public works superintendent. And I'd like to add in there, or his designee, because if Jason's gone and it's Kyle or whoever, or the mayor has the authority to declare that. And it doesn't have to wait until a council meeting to
Put in play.
put in play.
So you're talking about this, the current water conservation regulations.
Yeah, so 3.54.010.
Yep.
Which is, I mean, this is the header that has to be in the ordinance to start it all off.
Sure.
So what I was trying to do is take what Paul had given us and try to input it into the
I'm
current.
not sure that I like some of the language. I'm not, with some of the stuff that in Paul's stuff, it's too nitpicky. I mean, it's too micromanaging.
Micromanaging.
No one's gonna be able to do that. I mean, so then you're gonna get everybody calling, well, so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. I mean, I just don't know that we can go to I mean, it's a great concept, but I'm just not sure that you're gonna be able to.
So maybe we just buzz through here one thing at a time.
Sure.
So the declaration, again, if we add in their superintendent or their designee and or the mayor. And again, education, they can declare that anytime that the situation results, they don't have to wait until, I think that was the issue this last time. They waited 2 weeks to have a council meeting to declare the deal, and then you're 2 weeks behind.
So you're talking about A.
That would be yeah, the 3.54.01.
Yep.
You have to get up there I don't have the
I
copy.
don't-
Tell me where the copy is.
It's on the city's municipal code
Okay.
Yeah.
website,
Yeah, it's the.
water conservation regulations, chapter 3.
Yeah, there's a copy of it.
Here you go, sure, you have an extra copy.
Oh, thank you.
Question? Are you looking at the emergency operations plan in conjunction with this to make sure you not building in any conflicts?
There, so the emergency operation plan actually referenced the city's municipal code. So the municipal code is what we follow. And even in operations, we would go by the city municipal code. That's the authority. The EOC does have authority to make more stringent, and that's something we probably need to add into this. It's probably down in a higher level that the EOC would come into play. I think that's kind of where we're at. In the current status in level 4, it's other things as directed by the public works superintendent or the fire chief. I don't know how that got in here, but
So my concern there is that the EOP stipulates how the city is supposed to declare an emergency. Because that was not followed last time. The
Yeah, there's
plan requires the mayor to consult with the city council prior to, which he did not do.
then per municipal code, though, they don't have to consult with council. They can declare it, then the council has to ratify it at their next meeting, the next regular scheduled meeting. They don't have to call a special meeting. It's just the way the code reads right now, Jason or the mayor can declare a level 1 through 4.
Okay, that sounds like maybe there is a conflict there.
I'll look at
That needs to
it,
be. I think
I'll
needs to be
look at
looked
it.
yeah.
because right now the municipal code will supersede the EOP. Because this is an ordinance by the city.
Well, the EOP is adopted in accordance with ordinance, so to me, they are level. They are on the level playing field there.
I'll review it and look at it, see.
Well,
Sure.
what we're trying to work for is to make it easier to declare these water emergencies and get things moving before we get to a point where you can't correct it.
And I think Jason and Kyle are working on trigger points. Kind of tie in with these.
Points and mechanism for making the decision.
Yeah, you've got to be able to document why you're making the decision. So that would be the only recommendation I'd make for the first section is that we, Jason or his designee, if he's on vacation and whatever. Then as we move down levels of into 3.54.020, looking at what Paul did at stage 0, if we move that stage 0 to level 1, which is an educational, the way I read that's more educational, so we start getting the word out that we have sources,
And start to encourage conservation.
start encouraging conservation. So we take that stage 0 that Paul gave us and put into level 1.
Oh, okay,
All right,
That makes sense.
maybe level 1.
you guys, what do you think?
Looking at it now.
Level 1 is just is mainly the educational. The big things are probably when we drastic drop from 440 to 390 in a week. That might be
Okay.
or 400, whatever the trigger point might be. So I think as we get these, you guys could go through and maybe come up with the trigger points for each one of these areas.
These numbers will change though, right? Now that most of the houses are on board behind me. I mean, the level, daily usage levels are gonna change.
Yeah, they're constantly fluctuating, so
There's not, I mean, the average will go up.
most likely. But there again, I mean, with that said, I mean, now that we've had this educational year with water, who knows, they might go down too. So.
Then if we move on to So then the next level in the code was level 2. So kind of looking at stage 1. Maybe adjusting stage 1 and level, taking what is currently the level 1 now and move to level 2.
This should be level 2, stage 1 would be level 2.
And I guess questions,
And this is encouraged to voluntarily adhere to following guidelines.
yeah, it's a voluntarily
Mhm.
at level 2.
So are we talking about level 1 of the ordinance?
So level 1 of the level 1 of the ordinance, current ordinance, would move to level 2. Your stage 0 that you present would become the new level 1 in the ordinance. So right off the bat, we're giving an educational piece when we hit that, whatever that trigger point might be. Level 2 would be is where we start limiting activities. I don't know if we want to go ahead and go through here. I know there's some different things between stage 1 and what's currently in the ordinance for. Currently, the level 2, the proposed level 2 would be odd and even watering days.
I kind of like that myself, you know.
I never even heard that last year. It was like, that's a good plan.
No, I've heard that before.
Other places, but I've just not been there.
It's odd and even watering, and then it limits watering between 6 PM and 10 AM. So no watering from 10 AM to 6 PM during the heat of the day.
Yeah.
So that's currently in the level, well, the proposed level 2. And then it has other,
To me, it's hard to see how that's gonna make any difference, you know, in water use. I mean, it may, you know, it does, because most of this is all voluntary. Yeah, nobody waters every day anyway.
there's some.
There are people do, more than you think,
Yeah,
and usually about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of sprinklers running.
well, school used to irrigate all afternoon.
Yeah.
And as we get down here, there's a question on that.
Yeah,
So
so are you talking about replacing, I mean, because the next page you get to this little, turn your water off while shaving. I mean, I guess this is a voluntary stage still, but that just seems to be, I don't know.
I think that'd be more than educational.
Yeah,
I agree.
we're not really, you know, we're not talking about that part, are we?
No, we're level so we've got level 1.
Mhm.
So we're gonna take stage 0 and that will become the new level 1 in the ordinance. The current level 1 that's in the ordinance now would move to level 2
Okay.
of the ordinance. So do we want to go through and I think there's some good things in the stage 1.
Yep.
Kind of combine stage 1 and level 2 to some extent.
Yep.
I know that there's one thing in the stage 1, number 8, that collection of gray water, use of gray water. We cannot recommend for outside watering of gray water.
Yeah,
That is,
Liability.
that's a DEQ
Cut that part out, yeah.
issue. We cannot, as a government agency, we cannot recommend that.
You could recommend, I don't see any recommendation for using timers. You know, to give people the thought to maybe put their watering on timers, so it just doesn't run. It's not.
I think in here, we're mentioning using hand watering.
when we get further into the levels.
So the following activities or actions are prohibited under a level 2 declaration. Watering or sprinkling grass or turf. But under the stage 1, it's limit lawn, garden, and shrubbery watering to the minimum.
Yeah,
Kind of like that better.
I do too.
And then new lawns, grass, and turf seeded or 90 days prior to declaration. Kind of exempt. Everybody's thoughts is that.
Well, I'm getting confused here. So you're, I said,
I think that before we can adopt these ordinances, we're gonna have to write them all down in one.
Yeah, I'm trying to make notes here and I'll go through and try and piece it together and then send them out to everybody before the meeting, so we can kind of
Finish it up.
finish it up, so we're ready at the next for the next council to present it.
Well, if we've got one day before the next council meeting, we put it on the agenda before the 48 hours. We come in, we put it on the board, we double check it, click it off. Then
Yeah.
submit it the next day.
So.
so you're talking about,
So level 1 would become, so stage 1
yeah, right, it'd be stage 0.
would go to level 2 in the current. So the current
Okay.
level 1 ordinance now would move to level 2.
Right, so we're talking about level 3.
We're still in level 2. Level 2 would be stage 1. Level 2 on, well,
Stage
level 2 on the ordinance,
stage 1 on your one.
stage 1 on your.
Oh, so, okay.
I think there's good things in tow.
Mhm.
Just trying to go through and. Feel like. It says prohibits watering of lawn in the current one, whereas in the stage 1, we're allowing limited lawn, garden, and shrubbery.
Yeah, well, like, on this stage 1, that's all voluntary.
Yeah.
It's all, so it's level 1.
This is
yeah.
just like suggestion.
And I mean, we could do that as a level 2, voluntary suggestions.
Mhm. Just so people are thinking about it a little bit.
I mean,
I was also thinking about you expand the voluntary, you reduce the amount of police are getting done. Voluntary.
I think, again, it's more of a heightened educational piece.
Mhm.
It's like, don't worship your patios and your sidewalks.
We better keep it voluntary as much as possible. Once we get further down in there, it's gonna go away from voluntary.
Yeah, right.
If we kind of intermingle stage 1 into the proposed level 2,
Yeah,
that makes sense. And then level 3 would become,
stage 2.
stage 2 would be your stage 2, which is your declaration,
And where it becomes unlawful.
unlawful. Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm full on. Like a lot of this language could be built into education,
Yeah,
you know.
I think that, well, after last year, maybe there's a little more awareness, but having this to get out before summer gets here, maybe hopefully we won't even have to deal with it, but maybe get people at least educated on something.
So stage 2 would become the level 3.
Yeah.
Do we want to go point, you can't serve drinking water in restaurants.
I think that needs to come off.
I think there's a lot in both of these that, Any garbage trucks, I don't know where that.
Yeah.
We don't have any garbage trucks.
Yeah, I read some of that too, and I thought, why is that in there? I guess in maybe some of the districts they have them, that's probably it.
So.
Right.
Where are we?
So on stage 2, number 7,
That's going away.
remove that. There are any other things in,
Well, I think unnecessary purpose is kind of vague. I would just eliminate those two parts and go
7
to
and 8.
intentionally wasting water. I mean, I'd leave the intentional waste of water. Or does that become obscure too?
just spell out, don't wash your sidewalks, patios, parking lots.
Well, that's in number 5.
We can drop 7 and 8 then.
8 does talk about sidewalks, patios.
Oh, on the next page.
Yeah, the next,
Oh,
right?
no,
No, that's level 1, excuse me.
yeah, it has it in the stage. It has number 5 is to wash down outside areas such as streets, driveways.
That's
Who else would
voluntary.
get water out of a fire hydrant besides the fire department?
Contractors, the city gave them a meter.
Yeah, and we did have that during, build over there.
You did?
Oh, that's right.
So that would be some believe in then?
Probably.
Yeah, contractors.
That's gonna be controlled by the city, and I mean, if we're in a water drought, I would hope that
Yeah.
they would cut off the contractors.
Make them all
As
in.
far as number 8 goes, the only thing I'd leave would be intentionally waste water. That was one of my questions, is that become obscure? Or we kind of already covered it. And HC needs to go away because that's got gray water.
Oh, see,
Eliminate HC.
But
Well, you can't
the
teach,
use of-
you can't tell people how to use it. You don't know.
No, but you can't tell them how to use it. You don't want to use the term gray water.
Yeah, sorry. Stored water.
Use of stored water is encouraged.
Yeah,
yeah,
and but get rid of the reused gray water.
Yeah,
yeah.
That becomes incumbent upon themselves to determine that.
stored water is encouraged.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about for water? What are we talking about for watering lawns and stuff? That's where these levels get.
In,
In A it talks about.
In the current one, watering of any lawn, grass, turf, regardless of age or usage. Here it just allowed, except by use of handheld hose.
In which level?
in the stage 2,
So level 3 and, or, yeah, level 3, stage 2.
level 3, stage 2.
Oh, there we go, yep.
Well, let's just kind of push them all together and see what we come up with, and we redline what doesn't make sense and tweak it as we go.
I mean, if you hand water, I think that was the big issue this summer was gardens.
Yeah, people got pretty upset.
And if you could allow hand watering odd and even days again during the restricted hours. So if we add anything else we need to take out of,
Not yet. I'd say we put it together and read it on the board and see how it flows on
Okay.
a full document.
So stage 3 would then become stage 4 in the current ordinance. Is there anything in there?
Yeah, I kind of like the odd, back to the odd and even day, because wouldn't that help level out their usage? I mean, keep it more even, instead of having one big day and then until it last big day.
And if we had it in place with the Jason knowing he could pull the trigger, we could have done that without waiting for the council meeting to declare an emergency. He could have just got us there right away. We could have slowed that down to getting to the emergency we got to.
Yeah. So level 3 is gonna be stage 3 is gonna be level 4.
Level 4. There's somewhere in here.
You guys are saying level 3 is gonna be level 4, right? I don't see any stage.
Oh, you don't have the,
We only got the ordinance.
Because I kept thinking, I'm not following. It's all right, I don't need another copy, I just
Paul
learned.
found some different wording verbiage, and so we're kind of trying to fit the two
Clean it
together.
up.
Paul did some research for us and we're kind of merging what he's learned from other cities and what they've done.
Yeah,
So we're just trying to clean up
it up
and
make it real.
and present something to council to update the ordinance of the city.
It's something that eases into it a little bit better, because when you look back at, from level 1 to level 2, and you go from odd even to just flat cutoff. I mean, it's a jump.
Yeah.
And then from levels 2 to 3, it's not as, I mean, it's pretty heavy, but it's still not as big a jump as 1 to 2. And actually try to get out in front of level 1 a little bit more with a little bit of heads up ahead of time so people are aware of what's coming on rather than a big surprise.
And that was,
and hopefully the water districts can get this in tune and get out to my users so that, because I spent most of my time calling people last year and they all asked, well, what is level so-and-so? What is, so it was a communication thing.
Our goal is to get this to council because they're gonna have to hold public hearing for an ordinance change, which is gonna take a few months.
I'd be on top of it.
To
by
get
summer.
it through, our goal is to have an updated plan for ordinance that's a little better defined before summer hits. So that we can get it out and educate
The
the public.
proactive over reactive.
That's what we're trying to do. It's taken a while.
So that Jason and these guys can actually get these levels going sooner than what we did last year maybe, but.
Question, I had a note back here, I forgot, on level 3 and would be the new level 3, high use athletic fields are used for organized play. That is under the current level 2 ordinance, that's allowed. That's where we had our big issue this summer. A lot of water being used.
If we're gonna leave it in there, we ought to put some sort of a reduction requirement, say 25% reduction or X in hours that it's a usable rather than middle of the day. Where you have to cut down the evaporation and also require a little more diligence and not just walking away and going.
Do we put it, that they gotta follow the odd even days
I think that's.
and the timeline watering?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do we want to limit them? Because what they were burning through about 20,000 plus gallons a day.
Yeah, I say definitely limit them. I mean, that's.
Some form of reduction and timeline guidelines.
Yeah.
So that,
Do they still have their tank set up so they can do what they did
No.
last year?
No, they removed those.
if you cut it 40% and did it at a more timely thing, like after dark, or when it's not gonna evaporate, they're gonna get the same bang for the buck and not waste a bunch of water.
I think because we did put a limit on them last year, and once they got that limit, they were stringent about sticking to that, so. We did, the city put a limit on it, yeah.
It was a recommendation by the city and EOC that once we started coming out, we we allowed them to go to 3,000 gallons a day instead of the 20,000 gallons a day. There's almost your 5%.
Well, the only thing you're gonna wanna do is I think you're gonna wanna tighten it down more and put it back in level 3, because at level 2 it's voluntary.
Level 3,
Level 3 becomes lawful.
but it,
Well, stage 2.
well, it is stage 2, well, this would actually, it's actually listed under 2, which would be the new level 3 in the revision going forward.
Okay.
So on the 3, we want it the same as the odd even, 6 to 10. And if we have a percentage, we want to recommend it. I'd say it's maybe instead of percentage, we just say
Same amount.
your set amount you're allowed per day.
That seems a lot easier to visualize and
You guys have to manage it, what works for you.
Like Kyle just said, I mean, I say set amount, right? And that's-
it's a lot easier to
Percentages.
visualize. We can read that every day and see.
Their percentage might be what we bring,
Yeah.
50,000.
You can change percentages pretty easy.
But if we just lock in,
Manipulated.
So
You
does it
guys-
cut off when they hit their number or what?
you guys have a
Well, that's what we'd
recommendation?
have to do. I would say 5,000. I mean, we gave them 3,000 and they seem to,
They were able to get by.
Yeah, at the time they're already using all that trucked water, so
Yeah, that's part of it
Every
too.
other day, is that what we're talking about?
every other day.
Yeah.
Because they would be on the same odd and even as the rest of the city. And they would have to follow the 6 PM to 10 AM, so no watering.
Yeah.
I agree with that because that's,
Is there a different address for the school versus the intermediate school? Or
Well, so the high school is odd and the intermediate school is even.
so they would have different fields and water different days?
They could water different fields, different days.
Yeah,
that's a good question. I didn't think about, yeah.
yeah, I mean, or, yeah, just,
So basically, they could water 5,000 every day.
with their different fields. Yeah.
So you got 5,000 gallons a day to water.
Does that sound good or?
Ponder it. Brian, you plug it in here, you ponder the details for you
Yeah.
guys, when we come back before the next council meeting, you guys will have a chance to have done a little number crunching for yourselves, make sure that's the right number you want.
Yeah. That's, you're looking at $5,000.
And if you
So
can
what did you limit them to last year? I mean, they were trucking water in, so they were
3,000.
3,000 every day?
Correct.
Yeah,
So maybe use the same
We
number.
cut them off for,
we cut them off for a while,
Yeah,
once it started coming back, then we gave them
3,000.
3,000 a day.
But
Yeah, I
the
guess.
intermediate school doesn't water much. I mean, their field.
They were watering everything all day long.
They're probably our biggest culprits. I mean, it's-
Really? Well, I didn't, because I'm driving by it, it never looks like it's the green like the football field, so.
We'll plug 5 in and then if we need to adjust, but
Yeah, because I want to talk about that a little bit with Kyle and you guys, and we'll see where we come up with.
better to think it out.
Yeah.
Do something hard now, because once we put it in black and white.
Exactly.
well,
I'd go 3.
so is there a next, are we going to have a next level? Maybe the next level, they need to reduce what they can use.
so the next level would be 4. So
Yeah, it's timed up. Like you said. Yeah.
So the next level you could address
the
this.
level, so stage 3 is now level
Yeah. So we're not-
4.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
And then we would actually create a new level, level 5, which would be the stage 4. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Basically, level 5 would be any additional. That's where the EOC and Public Works would come up if we need to go to tighter restrictions. That's where they would have the authority to make those decisions
Okay,
at that time. Would that make sense? Any thoughts, Jason, Kyle?
Not in regards to this, no, I think like we've all said, I think we've got a good structure, we just need to sit down, look at it and writing it on the big board and kind of pick out what we're gonna do and ponder a couple things between Kyle and I, look at some numbers. I just personally, I don't want to get locked into a situation we can't get out of as far as what we're giving, we can't take back.
Oh, the city or the school stuff.
It's the school
and we may
stuff.
not want to put 5,000 gallons, but as determined by
Right,
public
public works.
availability on it. So
Exactly,
then
Change the wording.
each time it becomes
Yeah.
up to you guys to make the
that's all
call.
about that terminology.
Yeah, maybe put a base in there, but again, giving Public Works and, if it goes to EOC, the authority to adjust as needed, because if things get really bad, you might have to cut them off altogether.
But if we put 5,000 gallons or 3,000 gallons in the ordinance, it becomes tied to that number as opposed to if Jason is given the opportunity to determine based on the current conditions, that it will be
Yeah.
reduced to this number. And then when that number is reduced and school's notified, it actually needs to go out community wide. So that we don't have people over there with a cup trying to measure how many inches of water they're using for you.
I won't let- There was one thing I wanted to bring up before we left, and I know it's kind of, it's in the subject matter, but it's probably gonna be a lot of heavy lifting with the planning committee. I believe, and this is my personal belief, moving forward with any kind of development we're gonna do with the city, I think we need to start putting higher restrictions on the landscaping. I look back to what this development was given as far as the lawns, the trees, and almost what the city had to give back in water usage to support that. I just think moving forward, we need to build something, a plan with the planning committee to say, we're not gonna allow X amount of trees or these types of lawns. I think we need to really start like honing in on that a little bit to get some of that savings down and some of that reduction down in our water usage. Because we're gonna have to start thinking creatively. It's not like the water is always just gonna be abundant or it's gonna be low. It's just, we gotta have more forethought into how we put these structures in. So I don't know if that's something we can bring to the next planning, our next meeting with us and start thinking about that, down the line. Honestly, there's a lot of creative
Thinking about
thinking.
it down the line, I would suggest that you can't put in a new lawn during the month of whatever.
Yeah, and that's great. That's kind of where I'm getting at.
Water,
That's
you can't put in a new lawn,
Yeah.
sorry, you gotta do while we got water.
so true, because me dealing with the contractor this last summer and trying to negotiate that through, these are our lawns, this is what we can put in, this is what we can water. There was a lot of fluctuation in the language, even with the, what we have written in there, that they were saying, hey, we can water our lawns when we want to, and, they're new and things of that nature. But to your point, I think that's where we need to really start gauging and thinking.
Maybe that's where we amend the water levels, that no new lawns can be put in between
I really like that.
July through September.
Yep.
June, 'cause if it's that 90 days
Yeah.
back,
Or
if it's in June.
June-
then
June
we're in
through-
August and they still can water.
June through September.
There again, with the general public we have now, that's doing our due diligence as a committee here to say, okay, now we're thinking ahead and we're gonna, save here and there, so.
Falls into the guideline of conservation.
Exactly.
So we want to add, try and work that into
Maybe the conservation plan.
our levels.
Tie them together, support each other, and then you're not picking on any one person
So
or.
would it be in our levels or would it be in the planning department, the planning?
Planning, yeah.
Planning.
But we could put it in our levels too, and they can reference.
I don't know that we want to do
I
that.
don't want to do that.
Well, once you put it in, you can't take, it's harder to take it out. And if, once we actually get some progress with the tie-in and the other opportunities, we could resolve this long-term, then you got a whole bunch of paperwork and things to take it out.
But what if the planning committee does put it in?
Well, we can make a recommendation to the council to instruct planning to,
We can suggest.
or suggest to council can,
I mean, what we're gonna be doing here is suggesting to them as
Yeah.
well, so.
Yeah, but you see, it comes back to the water use, because, I mean,
But the planning
put in a
department can
law, whatever
stipulate
you
to your
want.
contractors how they're gonna,
Exactly.
you just can't water it.
so that's what
They
I,
can
Yeah.
dictate.
you plan it, it's gonna be
It's
brown.
basically, we can suggest, but they can
Which is our
dictate.
job.
And that's the big, like,
yeah.
that's the
planning
big word
department
there.
can dictate,
They
yeah.
can say,
State them, exactly.
cannot,
Well,
you
the
know.
planning will have to put it into, it would actually have to go into city ordinance for planning, for building, for new builds in order for them to enforce it.
Yeah.
So we could, out of this committee, we could make a recommendation to council to have planning review that portion of the building code with the recommendation to not allow new lawns to be put in from June to September.
It's part of a development guideline.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what about everybody else that lives in town?
They have the same restraint on them. If they're gonna tear up their yard in July, they're not gonna be able to put new grass in, you know, in August. It's a stipulation on everyone, but we're going after development.
The new development.
Well, and
Because
I
it's a
think-
large scale organized effect.
Exactly.
And one of the things that gets rid of that is just have an handheld water.
You can't leave your sprinklers running.
Go out there and water by hand. Most lawns got water system.
With your idea, Jason, I think it even go a step farther, maybe that you only allow so many square feet of grass. Maybe their front yards are not, they're, landscaped with rock and
Exactly.
non-water type, plants or.
I mean, we're coming to a point, I mean, I don't want to sound over dramatic, but we're coming to a point with water, it's gonna be a war. And we're gonna have to do everything we can to put things in writing to draw back any kind of usage. I mean, we're seeing it in that creek. I mean, it's running down there and it's nice to see right now, but what we saw last summer, it's not trending better.
Scary.
So let me put a bug in your ear here. So I'm a homeowner. I've lived here for 30 years. I decide in July that my lawn needs to be replaced. By your ordinance, by what you just said, I can't replace my lawn. But if you fine tune that ordinance to say new building under new construction, no new lawns, then it outs the regular homeowner like me who decides, well, hey, my weed pile really needs to go into a lawn situation, so I'm gonna spend the time, and the only time that you can do it is when it quits raining, and the only time it stops raining is from July through August. That would be the time that I would replace my lawn. So, but if you fine tune this and say, under new building and new construction, no new lawns, then that would out some of the people like me who might happen to want to replace their lawn. I'm just saying.
I disagree. I think it should be across the board. I don't think it's fair to, just because you've lived, I've lived here 40 years. I took out all my front yard this summer because I saw that I'm not gonna go there anymore.
Water use, because, the question is not to put in a new lawn, the question is the water.
Yeah, I think it could be a recommendation for water conservation that we send out to council for. And that would be a planning.
And besides, once we get done with what we present them, the attorney's gonna look at it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. And as I said, it'll become an ordinance and it'll have, the city council have to have public hearings and decide its recommendation. Anything else on this? I'll work on getting this drawn up. I'll send it out to everybody. And if I missed something, And we'll try and have it up for our next meeting, to try and fine tune it and in line, and so we have a final draft to present to council at their next meeting.
Oh, sure, I have an extra one of these stage things. Oh, cool.
So with that, anything other new business for the committee?
Thank you.
Here, but the extension down Olive Street, I think. What was agreed on was an 8-inch pipe, and I was looking at the CIP, and they recommend the 12-inch pipe.
The 12-inch was the new portion that the school did.
Yeah, I know, but I think in
The CIP.
the CIP, Camellia to Main Street recommend, I think what we're talking about,
Amelia Domain. We were talking South Olive. South Olive from the log cabin restaurant to Third Street was 8-inch. The recommendation is to move
Main Street Olive to,
to Third.
oh,
The south end was an 8-inch recommendation.
okay. So that's Main Street.
The Camellia to Main was 12-inch to finish that 12-inch
All right.
all the way down. Basically increasing the main lines through town. And then your feeder lines would be.
All right.
Anything else on new business?
I'm looking forward to meeting Petra on next meeting, right? You're talking about being here?
I think she's off.
She's, so yeah, I think it'll be good to work with her. And
And we got enough outstanding stuff here that we'll probably catch up on.
yeah, we got plenty to do.
To focus on the improvement
Yeah,
restriction level first.
Yeah, I think the restriction level needs to get done so we can get
get it out to
it
council.
going.
Another thing, I know we didn't do it last month, but I did kind of draft up some minutes from our last meeting. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to review those,
Yeah,
but
looks fine.
just get a motion to approve those.
Move that we approve meeting minutes from the last meeting.
Seconded.
Get a vote.
Kathy, I.
Ulrich, aye.
Bowman, aye.
Schutz and I.
I haven't seen him, but Adam's eye.
Wofford, aye.
I don't know how you got to one page. You were
I
only
condensed it.
2.5, 3
Well,
hours.
that's-
If you'd like the full length version, you're welcome to
To listen to it.
listen to it.
2-hour meeting. I listened to it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to do. It takes unfortunately, a lot of time, but I think we're moving forward. With that, any other public comment before we adjourn? Did Carol ever get?
He's off now. So those are the people that are listening in?
Yeah. Going once, going twice.
Seeing no public comment, can I get a motion to adjourn?
We adjourn.
1:30.